Hey guys, so today I'm going to be talking about Howl's Moving Castle, which is a film by Miyazaki for Studio Ghibli. I decided to watch this movie for the first time because Fathom Events was playing it at my local theater. They play a lot of Studio Ghibli movies, and this is actually one I haven't seen yet. So, why not watch it? It looks pretty cool. And you know what? It was a great movie. Brilliant movie. So for Spirited Away, they showed in the Japanese version. But for this one, they showed the English dub. I guess it's just like the day I went, the day I wasn't working, But I thought the English dub was perfectly fine. Um, Kristen Bale was Howl, and he did a really good job. So, and anyway, let's get on to the movie itself. So, we meet this woman named Sophie. She seems like she's kind of like in her early 20s, I'm guessing. And she encounters this wizard named Howl. So she's like on her way to visit her sister, but there's these creepy dudes who start hitting on her, but Howl saves her and returns her home. And she meets this witch of the waste, and the witch is like, I don't like your shop, then I don't like you. And she's like, well, fuck off then. And she's like, ooh, you upset me, the witch of the waste. So she turns her into this elderly woman, like who's in her like 80s or 90s. And, it's Sophie's not exactly like, it's not the end of the world for Sophie. She's like, oh, well, this sucks. But she's not like, it's not like the end of the world. Which is interesting because like it either shows that she doesn't really have that much of a problem getting older, or like this is something that happens a lot in this universe, which isn't really explained. But she wants to break the curse, so she leaves home and kind of goes to the country, and she meets the scarecrow, which she calls Turnip Head, and the scarecrow is very cute because it like dances around on this pole, and he leads her to Howl's castle, where she kind of just walks in and she meets this young boy named Malcolm, who's Howl's apprentice, and Calcifer, who's this fire spirit, fire demon. He's voiced by Billy Crystal, so whenever he was speaking, I just told Mike Wazowski, because I guess that's my generation. And he makes a deal with Sophie, and he's like, "I'll break your calls if you break my link with Hal." So he's connected to Hal. Well, if he dies, Hal dies. So Hal kind of leaves him stuck in his house, controlling his moving castle. And Hal comes, and Sophie's like, "I'm your cleaning lady. I'm the new cleaning lady." And Hal's like, "Okay," but we don't know that Hal actually knows that she's Sophie, and neither does Sophie. Sophie can't tell anybody about this because the witch put a spell on her, so she can't tell the truth. Meanwhile, there's this war going on between two kingdoms who are searching for the missing prince, and the king summons Hal to fight in the war, but Hal doesn't want to because he's kind of like anti-authoritarian. So he sends his mom, well, he sends Sophie to do it, pretending like Sophie's his mom, and Sophie's gonna tell them that he's too much of a coward to fight. And he gives Sophie this ring that leads her to Calcifer if anything goes wrong. So there's this dog that follows her to the castle, but we found out that the dog is actually like she thinks the dog is Howl in disguise, but he's actually the sorceress's dog. And she meets the Witch of the Waste, and they're like going up the stairs at the same time, but she could go up the stairs faster than her, even though she's like 90 years old, and she's like, "Yeah, take that, Witch of the Waste." I don't know. It's kind of a funny scene. In the context. So she meets the head sorceress, and the head sorceress punishes the Witch of the Waste by draining all of her power and turning her into this old, homeless old lady, kind of clueless. And she warns Sophie that if Hal doesn't fight for the king, he'll meet the same fate. And she's about to kill Sophie, but Hal arrives to rescue her, but the sorceress turns him into this monster thing. But Sophie's able to help him by helping him remember his past and who he is. So they escape along with the Witch of the Waste and the dog because dogs are awesome. You gotta have a dog in this movie. Meanwhile, the soldiers from each of the kingdoms are breaking into both of like Howl's fake houses, I guess. Like his house is kind of like the TARDIS, a little bit different. Where like he could teleport it to different places, and it looks like from the outside it looks like just a normal building. But they break into them, and it's just like just a normal building. Like one's a cult house, one's a real house. It's just because he could decide like where he puts it. So Sophie learns about like how being connected to Calcifer and how also like turns into this bold creature to interfere with like both sides of the role. But every time he transforms into this bold, it makes him more difficult to transform back into a human. And he has the castle magically linked to Sophie's home, so he could like park the castle next to this beach. It's a very pretty beach. It's like a garden too, and he's like, if anything happens, you could live in this nice little garden. And then it kind of cuts for a few days later, and the town is bombed by enemy aircraft. Something else I noticed about Studio Ghibli movies, mostly Miyazaki's movies, there's a lot of like planes in it. There's a lot of like airships and planes. We've seen this in Howl's Moving Castle. We've seen this in this. We've seen this in Totoro. I see that's like kind of a common thread throughout these movies. Maybe he just likes planes. Maybe there's something more to it. I don't know. Um, so uh, the henchmen attack Sophie's hat shop and the house itself, and Hal leaves to protect the group. And Sophie moves everybody out of the house, and she takes Calcifer from the fireplace, which Calcifer's kind of the one that holds the entire castle together. So when he leaves, the castle falls apart. And the Witch of the Waste realizes that Calcifer has Howl's heart, and she grabs it. She grabs the demon and steals the heart, but she sets herself on fire. And Sophie pulls water under the witch, but that gets Calcifer wet. And that's not good because he's made of fire, and you can't waddle fire unless the fire, you know what I mean. So the castle splits in two, and Sophie falls down this hole, and she's separated from the rest of the group. So Sophie uses the ring that Hal gave her, don't take the ring, Laura. And she wanders into like this flashback. She kind of time travels and meets like a very young Howl, and he catches this falling star, which is Calcifer, and he gives him his heart, and she finds out like how exactly they were bonded. And Sophie tells him to find her in the future, and then she's teleported away. And this kind of explains like the beginning of the movie when he finds her in the future, like when he saves her from those two creepy guards. So that wasn't just like a happen circumstance. He knew about this from the beginning. So she returns to the present, she finds Hal, and they reunite with everybody else, and she convinces the witch to return Hal's heart. Um, and the witch kind of gets this redemption arc. Sophie places it back inside of Hal, and he revives him, and she frees Calcifer, but Calcifer wants to stay with them because they're like friends now or something. So Sophie's course is broken, but her hair stays white, which I like that. I like how she's not. It kind of represents that like while she's back to normal, she's not like the same person she once was. She's a lot more wiser. It's kind of similar to Brave after the mom turns back from a human after getting turned into a bear. She also has gray hair. I don't know if that was influenced by this movie, but either way, I think it's a great way of showing how much her character has matured throughout the movies. Is very like much wiser and stuff. And Turnip Head turns back into a human. Turns out he was a human this whole time. He was the missing prince. So there's the missing prince, and he reveals that like only a true love's kiss could break the curse. And so he loved her, but she didn't love him because she loves Hal. And he's like, well, I'm not gonna mess with that. So I'm gonna go back to home and make sure the rules ended. And the evil sorceress from the beginning, she's just like, well, I guess it all worked out. Guess I'm gonna end this war. So they ended the war, but there's another war coming, 'cause, as they always do. So Sophie and Howl and all the other cool characters, they leave. They're like, you know what? I'm kind of sick of war. I like that. It's like even though this war's done, wars are like a never-ending thing. It's a never-ending conflict. Like something the Doctor would say in the Zygon inversion. So they could kind of leave and go on more happier adventures, and the movie ends. So, what did I think about this movie? I thought this movie was absolutely brilliant. The everything from the animation to the voice acting to the directing, the music. The music was brilliant. I love the music in all these Studio Ghibli movies because they have such like an epic feel to them. Uh, it's just I don't know, something about these movies, they have such like a childlike wonder to it, and just such like an adventurous spirit you don't really get from that many movies. It feels like you're like in an entirely new world, and you get to like meet these characters for the first time, and I don't know. It feels very lived in, but also very new and exciting. Some like it's just Miyazaki's movies have this such like a childlike wonder. Well, like if you're 9 years old, you could like the movie. If you're 90 years old, you could like the movie. It's very wide it's very widespread. It could go through like all demographics. Like I'm 18. I liked it. My dad's 55. He likes it. So yeah, great movie. Like I said, the music's epic. The animation is really good. Like they use a nice mix of like 2D animation and 3D. Mostly 2D though, but computerized, and it just looks like so good. Everything's so detailed. Everything on the screen is just so like something's always happening on the screen. With like little stuff, like the way the castle's designed, you could see how like intricate it was when they designed it. Like all the characters were really well designed. Like the personalities were multi-layered. At first you think Hal's a bad person because he's like warned to be a bad person. Then he turns out to be nice. The Witch of the Waste wasn't as mean as you thought she was. She turned out to be not a bad person after all. Sophie goes through a lot of growth throughout this movie, so it's a very character-driven movie. Animation is great, music is great. Got nothing but good things to say about this movie. Let me know what you think about it down in the comments below. I'd love to talk about it. And make sure you check the link in the description because you could see when the next Studio Ghibli movies are coming to Fathom Events. I'm pretty sure the next one is Cast on the Sky. That might come out next week, I think. So I'll definitely try to see that if I'm not working. So yeah, let me know down in the comments. I think this movie is great. I'll see you guys on Monday. Well, maybe not Monday. I don't know. Whenever I am free to talk about episode 2 of Doctor Who Flux. I'll see you then. And peace.